Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. Start with Allie. Allie and Chanel, Tripp and Johnny. We'll go with Tripp and Johnny because it's going to lead into the whole Chanel and Allie thing. So, Tripp sees Johnny in the hospital. Johnny's sitting there looking to hit up Marlena for some money for his movie. This is after he just got into an argument. Once again, the same argument with EJ. EJ insults Johnny about the movie and stuff like that, about his quote-unquote pipe dream and, making a silly movie on a little phone. And, when Johnny came downstairs, Johnny overheard EJ threatening someone on the phone. EJ was like, oh, it's just business. Johnny was like, you mean the business that you are begging me to come and work, to come and work and stuff like that? That business? So they get into an argument, same argument that they've been having for the past, since he's gotten there pretty much. And of course it goes nowhere. Johnny storms off. Johnny goes again, to the hospital. Runs into Tripp. And pretty much Johnny tells Tripp the reason why Allie is so jealous, the reason why she blew up like that, was because, she still has a thing for Chanel, and she wants Chanel all to herself. Now Tripp, Tripp is a nice guy, but he's a bit naive. And, listen, I'm all for, believing what someone tells you. Like if your girl sit there and tell you, hey, listen, this is what it is, you tend to sit there and just assume that they're not going to sit there and lie to you. The problem is that he's thinking with his heart and not his head. And granted, I feel like when he was also sitting there talking to Johnny, he already knew. He already had doubts, which is why he went to Kayla maybe a couple weeks ago. He wants to sit there and believe Allie, but he knows that Johnny is, most likely telling. The problem is Johnny's not the most likely telling the truth because, he's already thought about that. So at this point, he's just in denial. He's just in denial about the whole thing. No, they're just friends. She told me that they're just friends. She said that you're a player, and, I trust Allie, and I know Allie. And Johnny's like, listen, if you want to sit there and practically believe in whatever little fairy tale she told you, that's fine. Just do me a favor. Tell her to stay the hell out of my damn business. Now, at some point before Tripp showed up to the hospital, he ran into Allie, and he wanted to get into the reason of why she left and just kind of really talk about it, but Allie was already stressed out. She's gotten little sleep, she's her first day jitters, just a lot of stuff that's going on, so she's like, I can't get into it. So Tripp leaves. Now, it is just this awkward tension between Chanel and Allie. And Allie, once again, lies straight to Chanel's face about why she did what she did. Oh, Johnny's a player, this, that, and the third, and I love my brother. I was like, you love your brother? Really? Really? Because that's one hell of a way to sit there and show your love. You want to practically sit there and paint... One second. You want to practically paint your brother to be a scumbag. So this way, Chanel won't want to have anything to do with him. So this way you can have him all to yourself. And that's what she was practically doing the whole time. Johnny's this, Johnny's that. My friend, when Johnny, my friend, Johnny did this to my friend and yada yada yada. Just really painting him to be a typical scumbag. And after she spewed out her BS, Chanel was like, alright, now I have a theory. Was the reason why you bat-mouthed to him So this way you can have me to yourself. Because pretty much she practically was like, you know, she had feelings for her, and Allie didn't want her. Now, Allie doesn't want her to be with anyone else. That's pretty much what she just said. And then when Allie seemed like she was going to tell the truth, you know, she was like, well, she was jealous. Before she got to really explain why, Julie and Doug showed up. Now, you know, at this point, Julie is just in full-blown denial. Doug is fine. Doug walks in. He talks about how he was just tired. He didn't really get a lot of sleep. You know, Jack was sitting there making phone calls to try to get Doug to see a doctor. And of course, you know, Julie was like, no, he's fine, and yada, yada, yada. And so at this point, I couldn't tell if Doug was in denial or was he really believing what he said. I mean, he did remember about Allie and Chanel's bakery, you know, that afternoon. And this is something that Julie forgot. And he seemed like he was back to his old self for a little bit anyway. And it's practically blamed on his lack of sleep. Then when they both get down there and they start tasting like the treats and stuff like that, Julie mentions the name of one of her relatives or whatever, named Allison. And she seems all relieved that Doug seems to be his normal self, until Doug doesn't remember who the hell this woman is. Named Allison. And that's when Julie had that look in her face like, Like she knew at that point that there was something off. Julie... I'm trying to go easy on Julie because Julie at times have gotten on my nerve. And at times she's been just generally nice and just a decent person. Except for the whole Chica thing that she called Gabby, which I don't understand how they wrote that in there. Maybe that was like a 90s thing where apparently that kind of flew. But other than that, other than the fact that she's been she's been somewhat annoying. You know, it is what it is, but I mean, it's heartbreaking because I look at them as a couple, and I am in awe. The fact that they are in their early 90s, they've been together for extremely long time, is amazing. I'm not going to get into my track record with women, but I just look at that and I'm like, it's beautiful. And it's also pretty heartbreaking that it seems like he may actually have Alzheimer's, and that's just... wow. EJ and Chad get into it because at this point, well, Chad walks into the room right after EJ got into a fight with Johnny. So EJ snaps at Chad and they both take a bunch of low blows, and my goodness, the way he talks about his wife calling her a duplicit whore, it's like, wow. Damn, bro. I mean, I know you're angry at her, and listen, I understand his feelings as far as, you know, like being cheated on. It's a level that I don't know if I would want to sit there and say I wouldn't wish that on my worstest enemy. But I understand where he's coming from as far as him being heartbroken and also being a very proud man and living up to the, you know, the stature of like the DeMaros or whatever. So like, I get it. But dude, that's like the mother of your kids. The fact that you call her that is just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling, and I just wonder, in so many ways, what the hell? I was going to sit there and say, what the hell did Sam see in EJ? But Sam has her own issues, Samantha has her own issues, or Sammy has her own issues. It's kind of annoying because now I'm calling her Sam from GH. Anyway, I guess in a way they kind of both belong together because in so many ways they're kind of terrible people. So they go back and forth, back and forth. And then EJ brings up a good point, when he talks about Abigail, like, yo, why didn't you, like, bring her back, where she belongs at? He was like, why didn't you go and see her? The kids and everything like that. And he pretty much just, more to the point, he's just like, you need to man up. And you need to sit there and reclaim your wife. He's like, you need to reclaim your wife, pretty much. And he actually takes his advice. Towards the end of the episode, he goes to Boston. And he sees Abigail. I don't know what is going on. I feel like at this point, if they're not going to have Abigail on the show, then they need to find a way to write her off. Do a divorce, whatever. I'm not a fan of recasting. I'm not. Because it rarely works. It rarely works for just a couple of reasons. One, once you get used to the character, and then they just bring in somebody else, it's really difficult to try to turn people around. It's extremely difficult. Especially if they suck. So I'm not a fan of that. But I'm also not a fan of stories that have holes in them. Abigail, Jennifer, Sarah, Hope. These are holes in this show. And granted, the show is still moving along, but it's like, come on, seriously? We're just gonna sit there and pretend that Hope shouldn't have came back a long time ago? What's going on with Sarah? Does she ever escape that island or anything like that? I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, even with Eric, at least they found a way to close out his story. They didn't bother to sit there and recast him. They just found a way to close out his story and just have that character move on. And I feel like with Abby at this point, they need to come to some sort of resolution. Xander is in so much trouble at this point. He gets a call from EJ, pretty much threatening him to... Well, he pretty much threatens him by saying, I will make sure that you go back to jail. And Xander tells him the truth. He's like, yo, listen, the cops confiscated his money, and once I guess Bonnie goes to trial or whatever, once she gets arraigned or whatever, then he can get back the money and he can give it back to EJ. So EJ's like, alright, well, listen, don't keep me waiting. Okay, so he tells him don't keep him waiting. He hangs out with Gwen for a little bit to try to come up with a cover story. As far as, because Gwen was going to sit there and tell Jack the real reason of why, as far as, like, the miscarriage and blaming on Abby and, possibly losing her relationship with her father. So, they both brainstorm, ideas, like Xander comes up with like, oh, well, you could sit there and say you're a hooker, and, like, you could sit there and say you're a hooker, and, y'all met way, a long time ago, and when you came to Salem, he remembered you, and he was going to blackmail you, which, I mean, granted, I know she didn't like that story, and it's, it's not exactly a flattering story, but it's a story that would have worked. He wouldn't have really sat there and tried to dig too much into it. So they brainstorm. I mean, this is probably like after they, have sex or whatever. But, and I still need to start calling this cereal. Anyway, they brainstorm, and towards the end, Gwen is just like, you know what? I might as well just tell the truth. Because at the end of the day, it's a huge weight off my shoulders. And if he hates me, he hates me. But it can possibly maybe fix Xander and Jack's relationship, or she could just feel free. So she leaves, and she goes to talk to Jack. And, you know, she's like, all right, let me tell you the real reason. You know, let me tell you the, you know, what the reason, you know, what the, what Schneider actually had over me. She doesn't get to it, but I feel like when Monday's episode starts, she's either not going to tell him because she's going to get interrupted, or she's going to panic and lie. I hope she doesn't do that, because Days, there's been times where I've been watching the show and I feel like they're going to stretch out a story, but then you just get right to the point. So hopefully they get to the point, and, you know, Gwen can sit there and really tell him the reason, you know, like what Schneider actually had over him, instead of just dragging it out longer. Guess time will tell. Xander gets a knock on the door, and it's EJ. And Xander's like, listen, well, EJ comes in, and EJ's like, yo, listen, I told you the clock was ticking. And he called the courthouse, and apparently Bonnie's being arraigned. So there's nothing stopping Xander from going to go get that money. And Xander's like, alright, yeah, cool, I was about to leave now. But EJ isn't playing any games. EJ pretty much is like, yo, listen, I'm going to make sure you go back to jail. And he gets on his cell phone, and I'm like, how? I guess it's, I'm just sitting there thinking, if you throw him back in jail, then you're not going to really have access to the $1 million, and that's kind of defeats the purpose. It's like, it's one thing to sit there and threaten him to kind of get him to move his feet faster, but if you're just going to sit there and turn him in, then, like, you're not going to get the money back, and it's all about the principle of the matter. But I don't know, maybe EJ just had a long day, he got tired of Johnny's crap, he got tired of Chad's crap, and he's just tired of Xander's crap, so he's like, you know what, F it, I'm just going to sit there and turn you in. I feel like it's not exactly going to serve his benefit, but whatever. Allie is just a character that just boggles me. Because I guess she's supposed to be some young 20-year-old woman, or young woman that doesn't have everything figured out. But it's one of those things where it's like, you know, she wound up hurting Chanel. She's going to wind up hurting Tripp. And it's one of those things where it's like, because you didn't figure out what you wanted, or you had quote-unquote buyer's remorse, I don't know what either of them see in that girl. I really don't. But, and I don't know how she is as a friend. She just seems like the type of girl that is just a scatterbrain. And I know I've talked about Allie before in, well, not a negative light, but I guess it makes good, it makes good for drama, which is great, because that's the reason why we're here, along with the romance and stuff. But that girl needs to get it together, because she's definitely going to want to hurting Tripp. I feel like Tripp could do better, personally. I really do. I really feel like he could do better. Because talking to her, it just seems so difficult. It's like half of the time she just seems very scatterbrained, and half of the time it's like walking on eggshells with her. Like she's... Anyway, I think that's about it. If I missed anything, please write it down in the comment section below. I'm going to just double check my notes. Yep, that's about it. I just want to double check. But again, if I missed anything, please write it down in the comment section below. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. And I just said that. Have a great, safe weekend, and I will see you in the next video.